Hey there, let me tell you about this insane situation that happened to me recently. So, I'm a teenage girl living with my grandparents. Life was pretty chill until one day. My grandpa, the rock of our little family, passed away. It was tough losing him, but we stuck together and supported each other through the grief. I was working part-time at a local cafe, trying to make ends meet while balancing school and other responsibilities. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home exhausted, hoping to unwind and relax. But guess what? The moment I stepped through the door, I could sense something was off. My mom, who hadn't been the most reliable parent in the past, had been seeing this creepy boyfriend, let's call him Bob, for a few months. He always gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I couldn't stand being around him. But now, to my utter shock, she declared that Bob would be moving in with us. Rent! Free! I mean, seriously, who does that? Mom didn't even have the decency to talk to me about it beforehand. Instead, she barked at me to prepare dinner for both of them like I was their personal chef. Hey, I just got back from work. Can't we talk about this later? I tried to reason with her, but she was hell-bent on making me cook. That's your job as a daughter, isn't it? I'm tired of your constant complaints. Bob is a good man, and you'll learn to live with it, she snapped back at me, making my blood boil. Yeah, right. Good man. My foot. Bob had always given me the creeps, and I couldn't stand the thought of sharing a roof with him. But Mom was blinded, or perhaps just didn't care. She was always quick to prioritize her desires over anyone else's feelings. My grandparents, on the other hand, had always been my rock, my safe haven, and my emotional support. Losing Grandpa was a massive blow, and I wasn't ready to let go of Grandma's comforting presence in our lives. Yet, here was Mom, barging in and turning our lives upside down. I couldn't bear the thought of my home turning into Bob's lair. I needed to take action, so I mustered up all the courage I had and confronted Mom. You can't just expect me to accept this out of nowhere. We need to talk about this, and I deserve to have a say in what happens in our home. But instead of a reasonable conversation, Mom exploded into a rage, accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. You never appreciated anything I did for you. Bob loves me, and he's here to stay whether you like it or not, she screamed, making my heart ache. Things escalated quickly from there. I tried calling my grandparents for help, but they were out of town visiting relatives, so I was on my own. Frustrated and desperate, I dialed 911, hoping the police could mediate the situation. When the cops arrived, the situation took a turn for the worse. My mom put on an act pretending to be the innocent victim and claimed that I was being rebellious and disrespectful. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like a bad soap opera unfolding right in front of me. As I tried to explain the real situation, Bob chimed in with a smirk. She's just a hormonal teenager. She'll get over it. His condescending tone made me see red, but I knew I had to keep my composure. The police officers listened to both sides of the story and quickly realized that something wasn't right. They saw through my mom's act and recognized the tension in the room. Sensing the urgency, they decided to take both of them into custody until things could be sorted out. As the officers handcuffed my mom and Bob, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief that someone finally saw the truth, but sadness because it had come to this. I stood there, watching them being led away, unable to comprehend the chaotic turn of events. After they were taken away, I sat alone in the house, surrounded by the silence. It was eerie, but also a newfound sense of peace settled over me. It was the first time in a long while that I felt safe and secure in my own home. In the following days, my grandparents returned, and we sat down to discuss what had happened. They were heartbroken to learn about the chaos I had endured, but they assured me that things would get better. Together, we made a decision to seek legal help to ensure my safety and well-being. It's been a roller coaster journey since then, with court hearings, counseling sessions, and a lot of emotional healing. But I'm proud to say that I've come out stronger on the other side. My grandparents have been my pillars of support, and I'm grateful to have them in my life. I took my little one down to the park because I wanted to get her out of the house. So we're swinging, and there's a lady there with a girl probably about 10 to 12 and a boy maybe 18. He was swinging on the swing with the girl when I got there, and I figured maybe he was her brother. He didn't even look at me. This other lady comes with her 2 grandkids. She says to me, "I can't believe a grown man is swinging on the swings at a park. That's not right." I said maybe he's special, needs. I don't know, he's not bothering me. She said he was just using a cell phone. Lady, my 19-month-old knows how to swipe on my cell. It's not hard, but I didn't say anything. She then said that she's just seen too many women get beat down and their kids stolen, and maybe she's just paranoid. I didn't know what to say and just continued swinging my kid. They left, and a few minutes later the cops come. She had flagged the police down to say that there was an adult man at the park. He was with an older woman, and the kid, he wasn't there by himself. Just ridiculous. I felt really bad for them because they were not bothering anyone, didn't talk to anyone but themselves. They didn't even look our way. Meet my sister-in-law, whom I affectionately refer to as Peg Bundy with money. She's a stay-at-home mother who manages to drain every penny from my hard-working brother while supposedly raising my 2 nephews. Unfortunately, she has chosen the path of least resistance when it comes to parenting. Instead of setting boundaries and saying no to her kids' demands, she gives in to their every whim, resulting in entitled, poorly behaved children. What's worse is her defensive attitude, screeching at anyone who dares correct their behavior, claiming that only she and her husband have the right to discipline them. Today's incident marks the 8th year in a row that my family's vacation at the cabin has been hijacked by Peg Bundy and her unruly offspring. As early risers, my elderly aunt, mother, partner, and I were enjoying a peaceful breakfast in the kitchen when my older nephew barged in, disrupting our conversation with his loud and inconsiderate behavior. It's important to note that his rudeness goes beyond his mild autism diagnosis, as I've encountered well-behaved autistic children during my years as a teacher. This behavior is learned, not innate. Before the unruly nephew made his entrance, the 4 adults had planned to head into town for a trip to the post office and flea market. As we were getting ready to leave, Peg Bundy emerged from her slumber at the crack of 11 and insisted that the eldest nephew accompany us, because he needs to get out and do something. Sensing the limited space available, I calmly explained that there was only room for 4 people in the vehicle, but she could take him later. That's when the screeching began. "I'm not going in. You need to step up. You are his uncle. You need to learn how to deal with autistic children. He's almost an adult. Screech!" Peg Bundy's voice pierced the air. I stood my ground, responding, "Well, then I won't go since there wasn't enough space for everyone." Her screeching intensified, repeating the same arguments, and finally threatening the teenage brat. "Well, you just stay away from Uncle Will for the rest of the week." "Okay," I calmly replied, not realizing the unintended gift she had just given me, the very thing I had been waiting for the past 16 years. Meanwhile, the brat loudly declared that I was texting something. He not only lacked remorse for his actions, but also had a penchant for tattling and sneaky thievery. Stay tuned for the second part of the story to find out how this unexpected turn of events unfolds. I live in an apartment with my wife, and we've been here for 5 years. Recently, an interesting situation unfolded. It was a calm evening, and I found myself sitting at our kitchen table, enjoying dinner and engrossed in a game of Pokemon pinball on my Game Boy Color. With the kitchen window open and the blinds gently swaying, I thought nothing could possibly go wrong. However, fate had other plans, and that's when I encountered Karen and her son, who were complete strangers to me. As I continued playing my game, I heard a sound behind me, assuming it was the usual chirping of the birds or the playful presence of the neighborhood bunnies. But I was mistaken. It was a young boy who approached me and curiously inquired about my activity. With my back turned towards him, I explained that I was simply having dinner. In a moment of lightheartedness, I also mentioned that I was playing a game on my handheld device. The boy seemed satisfied with my response and returned to his mother, who stood a few feet away. Engrossed in my game, I didn't give it much thought and continued with my meal. Little did I know, the boy would soon return to my window, this time asking if he could play with my Game Boy Color. Sensing caution, I politely explained that I didn't know him and couldn't lend my belongings to just anyone. Instead, I suggested that his mother could consider purchasing one for him at a nearby disc replay store or half-price books, both of which might have the gaming console he desired. He acknowledged my response and retreated back to his mother's side. To my surprise, the mother, Karen, seemed dissatisfied with my refusal. Suddenly, she appeared at my window not asking, but demanding that I hand over my video games as a peace offering. Puzzled by her strange request, I reiterated my refusal, expressing my concerns about lending my belongings to a stranger and the uncertainty of ever getting them back. Unhappy with my response, Karen's displeasure escalated, and she began stomping her feet in frustration. Realizing the situation was escalating unnecessarily, I chose to close my window and blinds, seeking to return to the peace of my meal and game. Unfortunately, the story did not end there. Within minutes, I noticed the unmistakable flashing lights of police cars outside my apartment building. As 3 police vehicles came to a stop, I peered through my window to investigate. Karen was engaged in an animated conversation with an officer even before he had stepped out of his car. Her finger pointed accusingly toward my apartment, leaving me with a sinking feeling of what was about to unfold. 2 officers proceeded to the mailroom and pressed my doorbell, signaling their arrival. I promptly opened the door and allowed them entry into my home. Inside, I calmly explained the events that had transpired. I emphasized that I was merely enjoying dinner while playing my game, and Karen's son had inquired about it, to which I had responded honestly but declined his request to play. I also mentioned the nearby stores where he could potentially acquire the same handheld device and game. The officers then questioned whether I had ever assaulted Karen's son or forcefully taken the game from him. Firmly, I denied any such actions, reaffirming that I had never laid a hand on the boy nor had I stolen anything from him. As we spoke, the distant sound of Karen's yelling reached our ears. She continued her accusations outside, vociferously demanding my arrest for assault, particularly focusing on the notion of assaulting a minor, and insisted that I be incarcerated. Undeterred, I reiterated my innocence to the officers, emphasizing that I had never engaged in any physical altercation, either with the boy or his mother. In an effort to provide clarity, I pointed out the exact locations where I had been seated during the incident and where the officers had been positioned outside my kitchen window. Meanwhile, a concerned neighbor from the adjacent building chimed in, informing the officers that he had overheard everything and had captured the interaction on his security camera. These cameras had been installed by the landlord to deter package thieves in the area. Grateful for this unexpected turn of events, the neighbor's landlord presented the police with the footage, which clearly showcased the events that had unfolded. Karen's face turned pale as the truth was revealed, and she resorted to yelling accusations that my wife and I were terrible people who had deceived everyone. She even threatened to file a lawsuit. However, the officers promptly admonished her for the misuse of emergency services and the distress caused by her actions. In the midst of all this chaos, her son remained polite and courteous. In the following days, I occasionally spotted the boy with his father. He would greet me with a friendly hi. It turned out that the father had become aware of the incident and, having heard his son's account, took the opportunity to apologize to me for his ex-wife's behavior. Apparently, this was not the first time Karen had acted in such an unreasonable manner, which ultimately led to their divorce. He now had full custody of their son due to an incident where she had assaulted a boy at a mall in an attempt to take his Nintendo Switch. As a result, she found herself behind bars. As a positive outcome, the boy did manage to get his own Game Boy Color, courtesy of his father. It was a small victory amidst the turmoil caused by Karen's actions.